What's up, losers? KD3 here. Today I'll be covering what skills I think are the best on each party member in Persona 3 Reload. When I made my best party member video, I thought I had a good enough understanding of what skills could benefit each party member the most, but with you guys' insight, I have greatly improved my builds and I'm proud to show you the end result.
With my vision, I'll guide you all to victory. Sounds great!
Let's start with Yukari. She's my go-to healer, so I have Amrita Drop and Amrita Shower along with Mediarahan and Diarahan for healing and curing ailments, Garudyne and Magarudyne for damage of course, Masakunda to make the party harder to hit, and Wind Amp for a bit of extra damage. I know people are going to ask why I don't have Samarikarm on her. It's because I never found myself using it all that much, plus by the time I would actually need to use it, I'm stockpiled with so many items that there really isn't a need to use that skill. But if you think you would need it, I would replace Diarahan since Aigis and Akihiko can learn it as well. I would also recommend giving her the Amrita necklace so that she's never unable to heal or cure the party if they need healing. Next up is Junpei. I think Brave Blade and Vorpal Blade are a must since they're his strongest moves. Shift Boost is nice for some extra damage. I'm not gonna lie to you though, the rest of these skills I could honestly care less about. The problem with Junpei is that he is a very strong party member, but his potential relies completely on outside factors, those being his combat characteristic and equipment. You see, Junpei is supposed to be a critical hit landing machine to build his theurgy. You wouldn't know that by just looking at his moves though, so make sure you hang out with him in the dorm to unlock his combat characteristic, and make sure you get some good gear for him too. I would recommend giving him Masakoto's Katana since it gives him Apt Pupil, which increases his crit rate even further, along with the Dragon Boots, which will give him Auto Tarukaja as well as Auto Rebellion. The Nandaka Bracers will give him Slash Amp, which will boost his damage even further. If you decide not to get this equipment or get his combat characteristic, then Junpei easily becomes the worst party member in the game. Akihiko is next. I've got his Zeo skills of course, Zeodyne and Maziodyne, along with Elect Boost and Elect Amp for more damage, Shock Boost for higher shock odds, Masukaja in case I need to buff him for his theurgy, Evade Ice to avoid getting knocked down, and God's Hand. I know God's Hand looks out of place and you're probably wondering why it's even here. The reason I have God's Hand instead of something like Diarahan is because I use the double Ziggurat weapon which has Strike Amp, as well as the Strike Bracers, which give me Strike Boost, so Akihiko can pump out a lot of electric and strike damage. If you would prefer to have Diarahan over God's Hand, I would recommend using the Evil Gloves instead of the double Ziggurat to give Akihiko Heat Riser at the start of a battle so he can boost his theurgy faster. If you have a setup persona already, then that's fine. The Evil Gloves are still his strongest weapon, but for the build I use, the double Ziggurat is the better choice. Next up, we have Mitsuru. She was able to do massive damage in Fez and that hasn't changed too much in Reload. We have Diamond Dust for massive ice damage along with Mabufudyne for mobbing, Concentrate for more damage. We have Ice Break here because she desperately needs it. I've run into so many enemies that resist ice skills that it makes Mitsuru a sitting duck in a lot of my battles, so Ice Break is a must for her. Maracunda is here to reduce enemy defense and boost her theurgy faster, Ice Boost to increase her ice damage, and finally Freeze Boost and Ailment Boost to boost the odds of her moves freezing the enemy, which also builds her theurgy faster and makes her much more likely to land a critical hit thanks to her combat characteristic. Teaming her up with Junpei could produce some amazing results since he is a critical hit landing machine. Mitsuru really shines when you have the right equipment on her. The Kokusenki Senjin weapon along with the Varna bracers will give her another 75% ice damage, putting her at 100% and doubling her damage output. My only gripe with Mitsuru is because of all the enemies that resist ice, I usually have to use Ice Break to set up with her first, and I'm pretty impatient when it comes to things like this because I don't have to worry about it on other characters. It may be better to just have Akihiko since he can do a lot of electric and strike damage if the enemy resists one, because it's very unlikely that they will resist both, but all of her pros make it very easy to overlook that small con. Aigis is a very tanky character, and her skills support that playstyle very well. We have Myriad Arrows, Primal Force, Akasha Arts. Surprisingly, she has Mataru Kaja and Miraku Kaja to support the team. Resist Fizz, Insta Heal, so she doesn't have to deal with ailments, and Enduring Soul, so she just comes back if she happens to die. I don't have a lot to say about her, to be honest. Her build is very straightforward and effective, and her combat characteristic boosts her physical damage, so she has an amazing damage output as well. One glaring issue that she has is like Mitsuru, she can potentially be a sitting duck if the enemy resists physical attacks, but you can bypass that if you have the Pandemonium weapon, or you can just use the anti-matter cannon if you're greedy and just want to do more damage. For Ken, we have the Heat Riser skill, which is a must-have if you don't have a setup persona, Makara Karn and Tetra Karn for covering weaknesses as well as avoiding instant kills, Mediarahan for healing and making sure he stays under half SP, Makogon and Kogon for light damage, Seodyne just in case the enemy resists light, and Light Amp for more light damage. One thing that's important to know about Ken is that his Theurgy requires you to have half of your SP, or less than half, and that's easy to reach with skills like Heat Riser and Mediarahan, but keep in mind that his combat characteristic gives him 10 SP every turn, so you may not be able to build it as fast as you'd like. That's why sometimes I find myself spamming Heat Riser or Mediarahan just to make sure that I can stay under half. You can get around this by either keeping his combat characteristic at rank 1 or not ranking it up at all, which is kind of a tough sell because the coffee he makes is actually amazing for SP restoration. And finally, we have Koromaru. We have Aegon and Maegon because he mainly does dark damage, Aragidyne because of fire and dark amp, Tempest Slash for coverage, Debilitate, which is a staple skill to have just so Makoto doesn't have to use it, and Masuku Kaja because combined with Koromaru's combat characteristic, it makes the team extremely hard to hit. And Fuuka's Fuuka. But seriously, if you have the chakra ring, give it to her. It has Spellmaster, which does work on Fuuka and will make all of her skills cost half of their SP, which is extremely helpful in Tartarus. That concludes this video. If there's anything that you think that I missed, make sure to let me know. And check out my playlist if you need help with anything else. I'll see you guys next video.